I've been doing a lot of these videos lately, Switch 1 versus Switch 2 versus Switch 1 running on Switch 2, because more and more games are launching without upgrade paths, and that means no free jumps between versions. You either buy it again, or you don't play the improved version. And that's especially relevant if you're a physical collector, because with No Sleep for Kaname Date, the Switch 1 version comes on a cartridge, but the Switch 2 version, it's a game keycard, so even though it looks like a physical release, you're still just redeeming a digital download. And this one as well adds a new wrinkle. It hasn't been advertised anywhere, but the Switch 2 version includes both a performance mode and a quality mode, giving us 4 ways to play the same title. And yeah, I got some interesting results with this one. So in this video, I'm breaking down visuals, frame rate, load times, and even the new mouse style controls on Switch 2 to help you figure out which version is going to be best for you. Basically, welcome to our first ever Switch 1 versus Switch 1 on 2 versus Switch 2 performance versus Switch 2 quality comparison. If it's not obvious, this was an absolute pain in the ass to put together, so if it helps you out, consider subscribing. A niche game like this, it's not going to pull in massive views, so your support genuinely helps keep videos like this going. For those unfamiliar, No Sleep for Kaname Date is the latest in the AI The Somnian Files series, and this is a visual novel and mystery game. It blends investigation sequences with puzzles. This time around though, narrative-wise, internet idol Iris has been abducted by aliens. She is forced to participate in an escape game aboard what is a mysterious UFO. In the meantime, Detective Kaname Date is working to track her down alongside his AI partner Aba. It's basically a quest to find her. And yeah, it's equal parts noir detective story and surreal psychological thriller. I will say though, there is just tons of humour packed in. This though today isn't a review. I will say I'm really enjoying it so far, and you can watch out for my full review on the channel very soon, but today we're focusing purely on the technical side to help you figure out which version to pick up. Okay, so let's start with the resolution, and as you'd expect, the Switch 2 takes the lead here. On the original Switch, No Sleep for Kaname Date appears to run at around 720p both docked and handheld. It's functional but soft. Play that same Switch 1 build on the Switch 2 and you'll benefit from the system's 4K outputs. Now it doesn't magically add detail, but it does upscale cleanly. It makes a noticeable difference. That said, it also highlights some of the visual shortcuts more clearly, which we will get into. The native Switch 2 version is sharper across the board. Quality mode in particular delivers the cleanest image. Aliasing is significantly reduced, edges are better defined, and the overall presentation simply more stable. Performance mode still looks good and appears to render at the same resolution, but it doesn't clean up the image as well. There's a mild shimmer on moving objects and slightly rougher edges. Not bad, just not quite as polished as quality mode. As a quick note here as well, just worth noting, the game defaults to performance mode when played in handheld, or if your display doesn't support certain output features. Now I have a high-end 4K TV and monitor. Mine's still booted up in performance mode by default, so I definitely check those settings the first time you play. Alright, so visuals, and the biggest difference visually across all versions, it's going to be the aliasing, honestly. So on Switch 1, the image is first of all soft, but edges, they shimmer constantly, especially on character outlines and objects in the environment. Third-person exploration is where it looks its worst. You'll see flickering, broken lines, and blurry texture detail that definitely collapses as you move. First-person investigation sequences, they're more forgiving. The slow pacing and the clean UI really helps mask some of it. Cutscenes fare the best on Switch 1, mostly due to tighter framing and, these are pre-rendered. Run that same Switch 1 build on Switch 2 and you'll get a noticeable boost in image clarity, thanks to that 4K output. But it is a double-edged sword, I will warn of that. While the image is crispier, it's going to draw more attention to the low-res textures, the unfinished outlines, the aliasing. So it really depends on what you are looking for from the experience. That softer image on Switch 1 actually helps in these areas. Then you have the native Switch 2 version, and quality modes are standout here visually, of course. Aliasing is dramatically reduced, outlines are cleaner, shadows are better resolved, and you'll notice more consistent detail across character models and background elements. It's by far the most visually stable and refined presentation of the 4. Performance mode isn't too far behind, but you do lose some of that polish. See, I'd say overall with this one, the visual jump from Switch 1 to Switch 2 is big, but even just between quality and performance mode, there is a meaningful difference. Frame rate though is what really surprised me. Now the original Switch version on Switch 1 is by far the worst performer, of course. Now all versions here target 60 FPS, it's unlocked, but Switch 1 rarely hits it. The cutscenes I'll say are mostly fine, but the gameplay itself struggles. In first person, you might hit 60 if you're not moving the camera, but the moment you pan, you're going to see dips into the low 40s. It feels uneven and can genuinely make it harder to select objects. Third person exploration, however, is worse. On average, I saw 30 to 40 FPS, with dips into the high 20s in more demanding areas. It's not unplayable, but it's rough. Now running that same Switch 1 build on Switch 2, way better. First person holds at 60 with no noticeable drops, and third person exploration also stable. Occasionally there was a minor drop, I'd say 57 to 58 FPS in heavier scenes, but it's clean, it's responsive, it feels great. Now though, we get to the native Switch 2 version, and this is where things get weird. Both quality and performance modes hit 60 FPS in first person scenes, no problem there. But in third person, both dip below the backward compatible version. Performance mode averaged around 54 to 56 FPS, while quality mode hovered just below that at 52 to 54. Playable, but noticeably less fluid. Despite being built for the stronger hardware, it actually doesn't feel as smooth as running the older one on this new system. So actually, with frame rate, if you're after smoothness, the Switch 1 build on Switch 2 is actually the winner. Load times then were also advertised as being faster on Switch 2, and yes, look, technically they are. But the thing is, they're already incredibly fast on Switch 1. We are talking a few seconds tops. On Switch 2, maybe a second quicker at the very most, give or take. Basically, it's not meaningful, just a nice bonus if you do notice it. The last thing I want to talk about then is a Switch 2 exclusive feature, mouse style controls. On paper, this sounds like a perfect fit for a game like this, but the implementation just isn't there. It kind of works like gyro, but instead of assisting your aim, it completely replaces right stick control. So you're dragging the Joy-Con pointer across the screen to select objects, or in this case, move the camera. Now in first-person investigation sequences, it's great, it makes sense, it feels natural, selecting dialogue options, interacting with objects, it's smooth and precise. But the problem is, it's on all the time. You can't use it just in those scenes, you can't just pick up the Joy-Con and it switches to normal controls. So yeah, when you're in third person, just exploring, you lose the ability to rotate the camera normally with that right stick. You have to hold a button and physically drag instead. It feels awkward, especially with Joy-Con size and grip. And because it's a hard toggle, you can't just naturally switch between the two. It's like go to the options menu, select it. It takes a good like 5-10 seconds to actually make the switch for you. It's an entire process. So basically in the end, I just turned it off. The potential is there, there's no question about it, but the design, the implementation, it just isn't flexible enough right now. So the final verdict. Well, first of all, would I recommend the Switch 1 build running on Switch 2 for physical collectors? Absolutely. It's an easy win. You get the full game on cartridge, and even without an upgrade path, you're getting the smoothest version of the game. Visually, it's a step down, sure, but I'd say nothing deal breaking. And yeah, you can kind of bask in the glory of knowing you have the most stable frame rate even over that native Switch 2 build. That said, the Switch 2 version does look better, especially in quality mode. Aliasing is cleaned up, fine geometry holds together, and the background elements show more depth. It's a proper visual upgrade. But performance mode, I don't think it gives you enough of a frame rate boost to really justify it, and in fact, it runs worse still than backwards compatibility, so I'm going to go quality mode all the time. Mouse controls finally for the Switch 2 players, an interesting idea, but awkward in practice. And yeah, load times are faster, but not meaningfully so. So it really comes down to priorities with this one. If you want the best image quality and don't mind a few frame dips, Switch 2 quality mode is the way to go. If you want the smoothest experience and a physical copy, you only really have one choice here. Play the Switch 1 version on a Switch 2. And for all of those out there who are playing the Switch 1 version on a Switch 1, this is getting real confusing, it works. This series has always had performance quirks. That hasn't changed with this new entry, but it's a visual novel. We like gameplay elements. It's not gonna ruin the experience. Just I'd say, expect to notice it. So if this helped you out today, do the usual. A like or a sub goes a long way, especially for like super niche stuff like this one. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers all.